King of Israel.
Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master, and today we're diving deep into the incredible story of one of the most legendary figures in biblical history, David, from the House of David TV series. From his humble beginnings as a shepherd boy in Bethlehem to his anointing as Israel's future king and his epic battle against Goliath, David's journey is packed with courage, faith, and destiny. So, grab your slingshot and stones, because we're about to uncover the true origins of the man after God's own heart.
The earth, that all the earth may know there is a God in Israel. Then,
the humble beginnings of a future king. David's story begins in the small town of Bethlehem in the land of Judah during the reign of King Saul. He was born to Jesse, the head of a family line that stretched back to Boaz and Ruth, names that carried deep spiritual and historical weight in Israel. David was the youngest of 8 sons, which meant he wasn't exactly the center of attention in his household. He also had 2 sisters, but as the youngest boy, his daily life was defined by hard work and quiet humility. Being the youngest in a large family usually meant one thing: you got the jobs no one else wanted. For David, that meant watching over the family's flock of sheep in the wilderness. He spent long, lonely days on the hillsides outside Bethlehem, guiding sheep, fending off predators, and playing music to pass the time. It was during these solitary moments that David's deep faith in God began to take shape. When wild animals came after his sheep, he didn't run. He fought back with courage that came from a deep, unshakable belief that God protected him. These experiences, though simple and unglamorous, were the foundation of the man he would become. David's courage, faith, and heart of worship were being forged in those quiet fields long before he ever faced a battlefield or wore a crown. And interestingly, David's birth in Bethlehem was itself seen as a prophetic fulfillment of blessings spoken generations earlier. The women of Bethlehem once blessed Naomi and Ruth, hoping their family line would grow mighty and blessed among the tribes of Israel. That blessing found its ultimate fulfillment in the birth of David, the shepherd boy who would become Israel's greatest king. The anointing of an unlikely king. As David tended sheep in obscurity, events were unfolding elsewhere that would change his life forever. King Saul, Israel's first monarch, had fallen out of favor with God. His disobedience and arrogance had caused the Spirit of the Lord to depart from him. In his place, God was preparing a new leader, one whose heart truly belonged to him. So, God sent the prophet Samuel to Bethlehem to the house of Jesse with a secret mission: anoint the next king of Israel. When Samuel arrived, Jesse proudly presented his sons one by one, starting with the eldest Eliab. He was tall, strong, and impressive, the kind of man anyone would expect to be king. But God whispered to Samuel, "Do not look at his appearance or height, for I have rejected him." The Lord looks at the heart. One by one, Jesse's sons were presented, and one by one, God rejected them. Finally, Samuel asked, "Are these all your sons?" Jesse hesitated and replied, "There is still the youngest, but he's out tending the sheep." Samuel insisted on seeing him. When David entered, his face still flushed from the fields, Samuel immediately knew. The Lord said, "Rise and anoint him, for this is the one." And right there before his brothers, David was anointed with oil. From that moment, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The young shepherd boy, unknown to the world, had just been chosen as the future king of Israel. No one else saw it coming, not his father, not his brothers, not even David himself, but God did.
It will be something entirely.
From shepherd to servant of Saul. After his anointing, life for David didn't change overnight. He didn't march into a palace or take the throne. Instead, he went back to doing what he had always done, caring for sheep. But something was different now. The Spirit of God was with him. Meanwhile, over in the royal court, King Saul was suffering. The Spirit of the Lord had left him, and a tormenting spirit began to trouble his mind. His servants suggested music might soothe him, and one of them mentioned a young man from Bethlehem who was known to play the lyre beautifully. That young man, of course, was David. Saul sent for him, and Jesse packed up bread, wine, and a young goat as gifts for the king. When David arrived, he played his instrument with such skill and peace that Saul's torment would temporarily fade. Saul was so pleased with him that he made David one of his armor-bearers, a trusted position close to the king himself. Imagine that, a shepherd boy suddenly living in the royal palace, serving the man he was secretly anointed to replace. David didn't brag about his destiny. He didn't scheme or rebel. He simply served faithfully, using his talents and remaining humble. But God had already started preparing the stage for something far greater.
Banish them into eternal darkness.
The giant that changed everything. The next chapter in David's life is one of the most famous stories ever told, the slaying of Goliath. Israel was once again at war with the Philistines. The two armies camped on opposite hills with a valley between them. For 40 days, a Philistine giant named Goliath, a warrior over 9 feet tall, stepped forward every morning and evening, mocking the Israelites and daring someone to fight him. The challenge was simple: one-on-one combat. Whoever won would determine the fate of both nations, but no one from Israel dared to face him, not even Saul, who stood head and shoulders above most men. At that time, David was still moving between his duties with Saul and his responsibilities as a shepherd. One day, Jesse sent him to the battlefield with food for his brothers and gifts for their commander. When David arrived, he heard Goliath's taunts with his own ears, and he was outraged. While the rest of the army trembled, David's faith flared up. He couldn't understand why no one was stepping forward when the living God of Israel was being mocked. He asked around about the rewards for defeating Goliath, learning that the victor would receive great wealth, the king's daughter in marriage, and his family would never pay taxes again. His eldest brother, Eliab, overheard him and scolded him harshly, accusing him of arrogance and curiosity. But David wasn't acting out of pride. He was driven by faith. Word of his boldness reached Saul, who summoned him to his tent. When David declared that he would fight Goliath, Saul was shocked. "You were just a boy," the king said. But David explained that he had fought off lions and bears while protecting his sheep, and that it was God who delivered him every time. "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Convinced, Saul offered David his armor, but it was far too heavy and unfamiliar. David removed it and picked up his shepherd's staff, sling, and 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream. He approached the battlefield armed not with strength or armor, but with faith. Faith versus fear. When Goliath saw the boy approaching, he laughed in disbelief. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" he roared. He cursed David by his gods, promising to feed his flesh to the birds. But David stood his ground. "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down and cut off your head." That was all the warning Goliath got. As the giant began to move forward, David sprinted toward him, reached into his pouch, and launched a stone from his sling. The stone struck Goliath in the forehead with deadly precision, sinking deep and sending the giant crashing to the ground face first. The battlefield went silent. David ran to Goliath's body, drew the giant's own sword, and cut off his head. He then lifted it high, proof that God had indeed delivered Israel through faith, not might. The Philistine army broke into chaos, fleeing in terror. The Israelites, now filled with courage, chased them and won a decisive victory.
God has given us the victory!
From hero to legend. When David returned from the battle, the people erupted in celebration. The shepherd who once played music for the king had become Israel's greatest hero. Saul, astonished, asked his commander Abner, "Whose son is this young man?" When Abner brought David before him, he answered, "I am the son of your servant Jesse of Bethlehem." Saul now knew exactly who David was. and so did all of Israel. David brought Goliath's head to Jerusalem, still under the control of the Jebusites, as a message to the enemies of God's people. No fortress, no army, no weapon could stand against the power of the Lord. He left Goliath's armor and sword at his camp, reminders of the victory that changed his life forever. That day, a shepherd became a warrior. A musician became a hero. A boy became a leader.
I ask that you reconsider. Right.
The making of Israel's greatest king. David's journey from the pastures of Bethlehem to the battlefield of the valley was no accident. Every hardship, every lonely night, every song sung to the stars was part of a divine plan. His story is one of faith triumphing over fear, humility over pride, and obedience over ambition. The house of David would go on to become one of the most significant dynasties in all of human history. His bloodline would produce kings, prophets, and centuries later, the Messiah himself. But it all began here, with a boy who believed that no enemy was too big when God was on his side. That's the legacy of David, the shepherd who became a king, the warrior who trusted God more than armor, and the man whose heart, above all else, belonged completely to the Lord. And that wraps up the epic backstory of David, the shepherd, the warrior, and the chosen king who changed the course of Israel's history forever. His journey reminds us that even the smallest beginnings can lead to the greatest destinies when faith guides the way. If you enjoyed this breakdown of House of David and want more deep dives into biblical legends and series lore, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on the next episode. Drop a comment below and let us know which character's story you want us to explore next. Until next time, this is Spoiler Master signing off from your nerdy show.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.